Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a great viewer question, and that is to kind of review and go over why it is so difficult to resist a hover attempt, or sort of the ability to sort of go back or regress to a relationship with someone who is a narcissist or a psychopath. So someone basically who has really taken advantage of others in the course of the relationship. When we talk about a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, we're talking about a few, common issues, namely a lack of empathy, and when a psychopath, a lack of conscience. So a lack of morality, a lack of right or wrong. And so it just gives them the predilection to be able to do anything as long as it gets them what they want. So as long as they are able to get what they want, they don't care what they do, who they hurt, what boundaries they violate, what rules they break, what laws they break, etc. It does not matter. All that matters to them is the goal. All that matters to them is what they want. So if it is money, a job, a place to live, is it contacts, if it is someone to use as a relationship decoy, someone to stand on your shoulders of for work, to get you, your work or your career to the next level, so they will, tap into those relationships. Exploitative, meaning, to really to take what they need from you and really get beyond you and then mistreat you fairly after they have taken from you. So it's very important to understand how and what exploitation is, meaning it's taking unfair advantage of you, taking advantage of your vulnerabilities, your not knowing, your not ignorance, but your inability to sort of be present at specific communication, specific opportunities. So there is oftentimes a deception or a hiding of information. In other words, very selective in the information that they share with you, specifically as is designed for the ploy of manipulation and sort of getting where they want to go. Sort of cherry picking, if you will. Cherry picking information, what they share with you, what they confide, etc. But yet they'll feign as if, they want you to do all the dishing up, all the sharing, all the taking from you. If you understand this, you'll understand why it's so difficult to change this type of relationship. Particularly, that of deception. If you can't see something, then how can you know to protect yourself from it? So part of the problem with narcissistic and psychopathic abuse is you cannot see it while it is occurring. It's kind of like an odorless, visible gas that you don't know that you're breathing in, but it could be responsible for a disease or your fatality. So really the abuse is very much the same way when we talk about a narcissist or a psychopath. So to understand why it's so resistive to change and so painful, even though it makes rational cognitive sense, there's an inability to sort of accept this rational or this logic information in when we're talking about breaking these very strong, resistive to change type of bonds. They're very resistant to change, meaning very stubborn. Even with evidence to the contrary, they're very difficult to become flexible and nimble and allow that victim to be open-minded. Because if you cannot see, just like the odorless, colorless gas, very much narcissistic and psychopathic abuse is very much the same. So you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, you can't feel it. You don't know that it is there while it is occurring. The narcissist and the psychopath, so they will engage in this type of behavior, sort of knowing that they don't really have any recourse to feeling that they have done anything wrong. They do not really experience remorse or regret. Especially, so you have to understand that you're dealing with someone not only who deceives, but they deceive again and again. Meaning they will manipulate, but then they will deceive again and only give partial or incomplete information. And so, in other words, you'll ask them a question and they'll give an answer, but only the partial truth. So people oftentimes then are placated by less than the full story. They don't know that there's something more. You don't know that they're hiding this other relationship. You don't know that they're hiding this other contact. You don't not know that they're hiding this other work client. You don't know what they have going on in the rafters, behind the scenes, in other texts, emails, other decisions, other relationships that they are, creating inroads to, that they're really sort of, part of that is that they will throw other people under the bus and not give credit where credit is due. So there's a whole vacuous part of the relationship where you don't feel acknowledged and validated for what you've brought to the table, who you are, your experience, information that you have that needs to be discussed. It gets sort of swept off the table, swept off the rug, hung in the attic, hung in the basement, thrown in for recycling. It does not ever get addressed. It gets sort of swept off, just, do this anyway. In other words, so that might become the initial, but then if that continues over time, you develop sort of a resistiveness to change and an inability to sort of deal, and then this can become very resistive to change and create a lot of self-doubt and emotional pain. They will, cloak their hover attempt with all sorts of, oh, well, I just wanted to make it up to you, or, I've been thinking, or whatever pretense, and then oftentimes the people with empathy, the people who have been mistreated, are more than willing to take a hit for the team and then take them back. In other words, those people who will forgive and forget, those are the people who end up getting taken advantage of and hurt, and most subject to these hover attempts, these very resistive to change type of relationship dynamics that involve abuse, that are addictive in quality, and that are, not only are they addictive, but they create a very unhealthy perspective in a relationship known as codependence or supply. You can research this. We can do more videos on this. There is so much to talk about. But for one of the traits of being a codependent is an inability to see abuse or call it for what it is. So there's a denial mechanism. In other words, someone who is involved in these relationships will undergo the abuse, the pathological lying, the insults, the false accusations, the throwing you under the bus, the judgments, the belittling, the minimizing, all that. And so they will then, continue to engage in this. However, part of the problem of being in a relationship with these types is that of codependence and sort of the inability to live in acknowledgement and validation when abuse has occurred. So it sort of goes into the witness protection program, and they continue then to sort of normalize abuse or minimize the abuse. In other words, not even be able to be aware that they have been transgressed, that there is abuse going on. There are these issues. So it's living in denial. So people who are in relationships, I would say, with a narcissist or a psychopath will engage in denial, either willingly or unwillingly, unknowingly, engage in this denial in order to evade or escape the truth, particularly that they are in a abusive relationship. They don't want to see it. They cannot see it. There's other evidence to the contrary. This person is smart. This person is good looking. This person has a great bank account. This person can play the guitar. This person can drive a car. this person has short hair. Whatever, the reason is, oftentimes there's all this explaining and justifying, which becomes part of a very sophisticated system of denial, an inability to see, acknowledge, and validate when abuse is occurring to them. So they're not able to see what is going on. They don't care anymore. It doesn't bother them anymore. If you've ever seen someone who is in this state, it's very shocking because they have an inability to stand up for themselves. They have an inability to say, you know what, this is abusive. This is hurtful. This isn't giving me credit where credit is due. This is not good business. This is not good relations. So they're unable to sort of, because of the personality dynamic of that narcissist or psychopath is always there for the win. They're always there for the outsmart. They're always there for the game. They're always there for whatever it is that they want. So there's always an agenda. So chances are, if you've been in a relationship with this individual for a certain period of time, you're going to know what it is that they want. And so if you're at the workplace, if you've got these individuals who are in the workplace, they will buddy up and be your best friend and then throw you under the bus, all in the same breath, in the same day, the same hour, the same text, the same email. And it almost seems incomprehensible that this person could do A, B, and C and E, F, and G. So oftentimes it does not compute. So people are wanting to ignore, invalidate. This couldn't be true. I'm in a state of disbelief. I don't think so. We just had a great lunch. We just had a great dinner. We just had a great vacation. We just had a great meeting. We just made up. We just. So I would say this is usually part of the preamble or the preface to the denial. It cannot be that bad. This is normal. Everybody has this once in a while. So then, part of the problem is that person who is then abused or taken advantage of, then in this type of dynamic becomes a unknowing or unwilling sort of participant or enabler to the abuse. They don't realize that they then become part of the problem. They go into witness protection. They then go into denial. They might also then go into post-traumatic stress syndrome, or where they really have a difficulty sort of functioning. They're in a reactive state. They are living at the hands of this and don't know how to get control. And this is really all part of reaction rather than responding. So I would say the reason, once again, why it's so difficult to have confidence and trust in yourself is multifaceted and multi-layer. Number one, because if you're in a relationship with these types of individuals, they are wanting to take advantage of this vulnerability or aspect of you, to forgive, to be supportive, to be helpful, to be a team player, to be able to take one for the team. So in other words, the people who are rich in empathy, who are rich in patience, who are kind, who are supportive, who are team players, who are there to help others. Do you see there's a we're talking about two different types of people here. We're talking about a cat or an animal of a different color, but yet they appear of the same color or pattern as quote unquote their supply. But you don't realize that they are not the same inside, contrary to what they would want you or have you to believe. So there's a difficulty to believe your eyes. There's it's very difficult to see this. You're not supported or validated in self-support by this relationship or that of flying monkeys, because they don't want to be, oftentimes they're also trying to believe the deception, believe the charade, believe whatever it is that they are trying to spread. And it is resistive to change, and it's very difficult then to come to own the reality and remember it as such. So there's oftentimes I would say a predisposition for other people to forget or forgive the abuser, and then reopen the door for them to do and abuse again and again and again and again and again, to really the people then who are in it then begin to be so, I would say, shut off that they become blindsided or normalizing of the abuse. They become so steeped in it that they can't see the forest for the trees. They don't realize what is unhealthy. They don't see that they're being taken advantage of. Other people, so other people without an agenda, a third-party bystander, would be able to say, can't you see that this person, is doing this? Can't you see, can't you see, can't you see? And the other person who's in denial is like, no, I don't see this. Or, it's okay, until the pain is great enough and they go, wow, it's been 30 years and this is still happening. OMG, I better really sort of look at the data now. So the resistive to change is something you must acknowledge and validate if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath for some time. Realize that if you're having a hard time, this is part of the after effect of a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, someone who has sort of groomed their supply to satisfy and pacify them. Resistive to change because of the intermittent reinforcement as well. These relationships and this abuse is very resistive to change because that of intermittent reinforcement, which means there's the abuse, there's the abuse, there's the abuse, then there's something positive, a reward, i.e. what is the reward? The pat on the back, the hug, the dinner, the business award, the thank you for a job well done, the little gift, whatever it is, and then abuse, 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 and then the reward, and then the person who is then in the relationship is really sort of vying then for that positive. It's just very much like a slot machine. If you've ever been to I'm sorry, my nose itches because I've got this hay fever. But anyway, so if you've ever been to like a casino, and you're talking about those people who are on the slot machine, so that it's like a slot machine mentality is very similar to that of narcissistic or psychopathic abuse when we really look at the addiction and why it's very resistive to change, and why it's very difficult for people to own their truth and their reality, to see things once they have that breakthrough moment and they go, oh, this is what's really happening, but then they forget it right away and then they go back to the same problem, and they go, oh my God, it happened again. I broke down again. I did this again. Why does this keep happening? The intermittent reinforcement is very resistive to change. It's very addicting by nature, which means just like on a slot machine, you win, oh my God, you just doubled your money, quadrupled your money, and then, you keep going, and then you lose it, and then you gain more, and then you lose more, and then you want to get it back again to where you were, and you keep going for that win. You don't realize that the downside is taking you down, further and further and further, and taxing you and taking, more of your energy, more and more and more. And then, you realize, oh, they did this, they did that, they didn't give me credit, they did this to me, they did that, and then do you see how it then mounts up? So you must understand, I would think this is just part of it, why this relationship is so very resistive to change and for repeated abuses, repeated violations, and why it's so difficult for those people who are in the relationship to own their reality, own the fact that they have been mistreated, own the fact that they have been abused, see the fact that they have been treated unfairly or abusively, seeing the fact, and that they, because the narcissist or psychopath does not feel that they have done anything wrong. They'll continue. I mean, so you cannot have a correction with them. The correction must come from within. The correction, you must break the cycle. You must break that cycle of abuse within. You must see and acknowledge and validate, when this person has violated you, violated your boundaries and your standards, to stop making excuses. Stop saying it's okay. Stop saying it doesn't matter this one time. Oh, all this other stuff. Begin to look it squarely in the face and acknowledge the reality, and to say, it's a shame, but this actually happened. It's horrible, but this actually happened. It's terrible, but this is still going on. Even though I don't want it to be so, this is what occurred, and this is what I need to do. Even though I don't want to hear it, this is my reality, and I am strong enough to accept it. And even if I need to write it down or remember and rehearse it to protect myself, this is what I must do. And I must, see through and acknowledge and validate and call out what is abuse unto me, and then protect myself and not go back to abusive relationships. Not go back to relationships that are violatory or hurtful or damaging or destructive or disrespectful in nature. It's just simply not required. It's just simply not necessary. You do not need to make excuses for this person. You do not need to feel bad for them. You do not need to feel guilty that you are not taking them back. What is the guilt from? Stop that guilt of over-obligating and throwing yourself under the bus to protect another. How many times do you need to throw yourself into the puddle for someone else to walk over? Enough is enough. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace in, peace out, peace be with you, and have a beautiful day.